The Nightly Business Report.
Good evening. Tonight, government settles 55% of 2025 external debt in first half signals steady fiscal progress. Surge in Indian tourists pushes Sri Lanka past 1.6 million arrivals, strengthening recovery amid global travel competition. Sri Lanka's main stock indices decline as investor caution grows amid economic and global market uncertainty. And Nasdaq closes at record high fueled by investor optimism over potential US Federal Reserve rate cuts.
From Studio 24C, here's Jenna Newman.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Sri Lanka settled $1.36 billion in external debt servicing during the first half of 2025, covering 55% of its $2.45 billion annual commitment. The government plans to repay the remaining $1.09 billion in the second half of the year, with debt restructuring efforts and fresh loans supporting its repayment strategy.
Sri Lanka settled $1.36 billion in external debt servicing in the first half of 2025, covering 55% of the $2.45 billion due for the full year. Debt repayments accelerated in the second quarter, reaching $952 million compared to $406.6 million in the first quarter. Principal payments accounted for $715 million, while interest payments totaled $237 million during this period. Commercial borrowings made up $458 million of the repayments, followed by $279 million to multilateral creditors, around $215 million to bilateral lenders. The government also secured fresh loans amounting to $119 million from multilateral and bilateral creditors in the same quarter. As of June 2025, Sri Lanka's total external debt stood at $37.14 billion, with 98% of international sovereign bonds restructured and principal payments scheduled to begin in 2028.
Sri Lanka is poised to advance its digital transformation with the upcoming National ICT Conference hosted by the Computer Society of Sri Lanka from the 14th to the 16th of October. The conference theme, Fostering a Human-Centric Nation Towards Society 5.0, emphasizes using technology to enhance human well-being and inclusivity. With over 1,200 expected participants, the event will cover key sectors like fintech, edutech, agritech, and e-governance, featuring international speakers, startup showcases, and investor dialogues. CSSL leaders stressed the importance of policy reforms, talent retention, and collaboration to position ICT as a driver of national progress. NITC 2025 aims to support Sri Lanka's goal of becoming a $15 billion digital economy by fostering innovation and bridging digital divides. Sri Lanka's tourism surpassed 1.6 million arrivals in 2025, driven largely by a surge in Indian visitors and growth from the UK market. However, industry experts warn that without a national branding campaign, reaching the ambitious 3 million visitor target by year-end remain unlikely.
Sri Lanka's tourism industry continues to rebound, surpassing 1.6 million arrivals in 2025, fueled primarily by a strong influx of visitors from India. In early September, Indian tourists accounted for 27.1% of arrivals, making India the top source market with over 335,000 visitors year-to-date. The United Kingdom remains the second largest market with a growing share of 8.1% and over 154,000 arrivals. Despite this positive momentum, industry analysts warn that the government's delay in launching a national branding initiative and global promotional campaign could hinder further growth. To meet the ambitious AN target of 3 million tourists, Sri Lanka would need to more than double its current weekly arrival rate, which seems unlikely without significant demand generation efforts.
Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath assured the UN Human Rights Council of Sri Lanka's commitment to reconciliation, human rights and democratic reforms through national institutions. He highlighted steps taken in the past year, including strengthening anti-corruption laws, repelling the prevention of terrorism attack, and resuming investigations into long-standing human rights cases. Herath emphasized that accountability will be ensured domestically via independent courts and institutions opposing any external mechanisms such as the Sri Lankan Accountability Project. He urged the UNHCR to recognize Sri Lanka's progress and provide the necessary time and space for ongoing reforms. Herath reaffirmed the country's dedication to working with the international community through cooperation and technical assistance. Let's take a short break now. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Sri Lanka's main stock indices experienced a downturn today. Market sentiment showed a cautious trend amid broader economic developments. For further insights, we have Salama Sanoon from First Capital Holdings.
Thank you, Jenna. The Colombo Stock Exchange carried forward the sentiment from yesterday as widespread profit-taking was noted. The all-share price index witnessed more or less of a steady descent throughout the session and wrapped up with a loss of around 232 points to close at 20,674. Negative contributors to the index far outweighed positive ones, with CTC, John Keells Holdings, Sampath Bank, Dialog Axiata and Hatton National Bank taking the lead. Retail participants led today's selling spree, followed by reasonable high net worth involvement as well, of which the most noteworthy was a couple of off-board transactions relating to PickMe, which overall constituted of around 34% of today's turnover, which stood at 9 billion rupees. This reflects a 22% increase over the monthly average that stands at around 6.9 billion rupees. In terms of sector-wise contributions to turnover, the transportation sector took the lead with a share of 34%, whilst the food, beverage and tobacco sector and the capital goods sector followed behind with a combined contribution of 25%. The top three gainers were Agstar PLC non-voting, Asia Capital and Myland Developments, whilst the top three price losers were SMB Finance non-voting, HNB Finance non-voting and Hatton Plantations. Thank you.
Sri Lanka's private sector credit growth showed steady momentum in July, reflecting ongoing demand for financing. This trend indicates continued economic activity and confidence among businesses in the country. For further insights on this, we have Akna Thenakon from First Capital Holdings.
Thank you, Jenna. Credit extended by domestic banking units to the private sector rose sharply in July 2025, with outstanding credit reaching 13.4 trillion rupees. This marked an increase of 201.5 billion rupees from the previous month and a strong year-on-year growth of 19.6%. The expansion highlights renewed borrowing by businesses and households, supported by easing interest rates and improving economic activity. Meanwhile, government-related credit moved differently. Net credit to the government from the banking system climbed by 39.7 billion rupees in July, taking the total to 8.5 trillion rupees, underscoring continued dependence on domestic financing. In contrast, outstanding credit to the public corporations fell by 33.3 billion rupees, bringing the total down to 437 billion rupees, suggesting reduced state-linked borrowing or stronger internal cash generation. Altogether, domestic banking unit data point to private sector credit as the key driver of monetary expansion, even as government and public corporations display more mixed credit trends. Thank you.
Gold prices rose to a fresh record high in Asian trade today, building on sharp gains in past sessions on growing bets on a Federal Reserve interest rate cut next week and a weaker dollar. Spot gold traded 0.6% higher at a record high of $3,656.70 an ounce, while gold futures for December hit a peak of $3,695.25 an ounce. Other precious metals also gained today, with platinum futures trading 0.6% higher at $1,397.25 an ounce. Silver futures gained 0.2% to $41.30 an ounce, falling below last week's highest level, not since August 2011. Benchmark copper futures on the London Metal Exchange inched up 0.2% to $9,940.15 a ton, while US copper futures also gained 0.2% to $4.50 a pound. Oil prices extended today following the decision by OPEC Plus to increase output by less than market participants had anticipated, while concerns over tighter supply due to potential new sanctions on Russia continue to lend support. Brent crude rose 51 cents or 0.77% to $66.53 a barrel, while US West Texas Intermediate crude climbed 50 cents or 0.8% to $62.76 a barrel. 8 members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and Allies, collectively known as OPEC Plus, agreed on Sunday to raise production from October by 137,000 barrels per day. That is much lower than the monthly increase of about 555,000 BPD for September and August and 411,000 BPD in July and June. It is also expected less than some analysts have expected. The Sri Lankan rupee remains steady against the US dollar today than compared to yesterday. According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the buying rate of the US dollar has reduced from 298 rupees to 26 cents to 298 rupees to 25 cents, while the selling rate remains unchanged at 305 rupees and 76 cents. The Sri Lankan rupee has changed slightly against a basket of foreign currencies, including Gulf currencies. Let's take a closer look on how the Sri Lankan rupee has performed among the other major currencies. Short break now. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Sampath Bank PLC and Sathusa Motors PLC have joined forces to offer exclusive financial and promotional benefits to vehicle buyers in Sri Lanka. The partnership aims to make vehicle ownership more affordable and rewarding for customers.
Sampath Bank PLC and Sathusa Motors PLC have entered into a strategic partnership to provide exclusive benefits to vehicle buyers in Sri Lanka. The agreement includes financial solutions such as 0.5% interest rate reduction on vehicle leases and interest-free insurance premium loans if settled within 2 months. Sampath Bank will also offer credit cards with no joining fee and 0% interest on insurance payments repaid over 12 months. Sathusa Motors customers will enjoy special promotions including Rs 50,000 off trucks, Rs 100,000 off double cabs, free vehicle registration and 3 complimentary services. Additional perks include exclusive discount coupons on spare parts, enhancing long-term customer value.
Califolink Logistics, a subsidiary of the Saline Group, has commenced interterminal trucking operations at the Colombo West International Terminal, strengthening its position in Sri Lanka's logistics sector. This strategic expansion aims to improve container handling efficiency at the Port of Colombo, starting with a fleet of 10 trucks. Califolink plans to scale operations in the future. General Manager Nimal Vijay highlighted the partnership as a bold step toward diversifying the company's service portfolio. Saline Group Managing Director Chatra Lakindu emphasized the growing collaboration with CWIT, citing past contributions including barges, container storage and surveying services. Califolink continues to lead in transport solutions and container innovations, supporting Sri Lanka's evolving logistics infrastructure. H&B plc has partnered with David Pieris Automobiles to offer attractive leasing solutions for BAIC vehicles in Sri Lanka. The collaboration aims to enhance access to affordable, reliable mobility through flexible financing options.
H&B plc has partnered with David Pieris Automobiles to provide leasing solutions for the BAIC vehicle range in Sri Lanka. This collaboration expands H&B's automotive leasing portfolio and supports access to affordable mobility nationwide. Customers purchasing BAIC vehicles will benefit from tailored leasing packages, competitive interest rates, and dedicated financing support. BAIC, a leading Chinese automobile manufacturer, is known for its innovation, safety, and fuel efficiency. H&B's senior Vice President emphasized the bank's commitment to making vehicle ownership more accessible. David Pieris Automobiles highlighted the partnership as a step toward offering greater convenience and flexibility to customers.
CBL Foods, one of Sri Lanka's leading consumer companies, partnered with RoAdX and Ogilvy Divisional in present findings from a brand lift study on the launch campaign for its new product, Rocoa. The study showcased at an exclusive event with key marketing leaders demonstrated how the campaign significantly increased brand awareness, perception, and purchase intent. Brand lift studies offered by Meta platforms provide data-driven insights into advertising influences, consumer attitudes, marking first in Sri Lanka's FMCG sector. RoAdX emphasizes studies help brands move beyond vanity metrics to link digital marketing spent directly to business outcomes. This collaboration sets a new standard to measurable performance-driven marketing in Sri Lanka's competitive digital landscape. LOLC Advanced Technologies partners with Corsair Group to expand Sri Lanka's waste-to-fuel plant tackling the nation's growing plastic pollution crisis. The upgraded facility will convert more plastic waste into sustainable pyrolysis oil, driving innovation and promoting a circular economy.
LOLC Advanced Technologies has partnered with Amsterdam-based Corsair Group to upgrade and expand its waste-to-fuel plant in Keravalapitiya, Sri Lanka. This initiative aims to address the country's significant plastic and polythene waste problem by converting non-recyclable plastics into high-quality pyrolysis oil. The expanded facility will process up to 12 million kilograms of plastic waste annually, producing sustainable raw materials for the petrochemical industry. This partnership combines LOLC ATS operational expertise with Corsair's advanced recycling technology to increase capacity and efficiency. The project supports Sri Lanka's circular economy by turning plastic waste into valuable resources while also creating green jobs and promoting sustainable development.
Let's take a short commercial break. Global business updates coming on the other side. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Asian stock markets were mixed today, with most indices gaining on expectations of US Federal Reserve and rate cut next week, while Japan's Nikkei hit a record high after Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's resignation. Japan's Nikkei 225 index rose as much as 1.2% to 44,185.7 points today, its highest level ever. However, the index pared all its gains to trade 0.1% higher at 43,673.6 points. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index jumped as much as 1.5% in early trade. In South Korea, the Kospi also advanced 1.1%. China's Shanghai Composite Index edged 0.3% lower, while the Shanghai Shenzhen CSI 300 fell 0.4%. Elsewhere, Australia's S&P AS 200 fell 0.7%, pressured by financial stocks. India's Nifty 50 Index edged 0.3% higher at opens, while Singapore's Straits Times Index edged 0.3% lower. The Nasdaq notched a record high close, boosted by a rally in Broadcom, while the S&P 500 also rose as investors bet on the Fed rate cuts to support growth.
U.S. stocks gained on Monday, with the Dow adding 0.25%, the S&P 500 rising about 0.2%, and the Nasdaq climbing just shy of 0.5% for a record high close. Investors expect multiple interest rate cuts this year after a troubling non-farm payrolls report on Friday added to concerns about a weakening U.S. jobs market. The report initially boosted stocks on Friday before dragging them down on fears of a potential economic slowdown. Monday's notable stock moves included Broadcom, which gained more than 3%, extending its rally since the chipmaker said last Thursday it expects sharp AI-related revenue growth. Its market capitalization has reached $1.6 trillion, making it Wall Street's seventh most valuable company. Retail trading platform Robinhood Markets jumped nearly 16%, and marketing platform AppLovin soared more than 11.5%, ahead of both companies joining the S&P 500 beginning September 22nd. And shares of EchoStar rallied nearly 20% after the telecommunications services firm agreed to sell wireless spectrum licenses to SpaceX for its Starlink satellite network for about $17 billion.
Tesla's U.S. market share dropped to a near 8-year low in August as buyers chose electric vehicles from a growing stable of rivals over the aging lineup offered by CEO Elon Musk's company.
Tesla's US market share dropped to a near 8-year low in August. That's according to data from research firm Cox Automotive, shared exclusively with Reuters. It shows buyers chose electric vehicles from a growing number of rivals over Tesla's aging lineup. The decline highlights the threat from automakers ramping up EV incentives at a challenging time for the industry. Analysts expect an EV sales bump to continue through September in the US, but they see a drop coming when federal tax credits expire at the end of the month. That could raise financial pressure on Tesla and other automakers. Tesla once held more than 80% of the US EV market, but data showed it made up for 38% of the total EV sales in the US in August. That's the first time it's fallen below the 40% mark since October 2017. Tesla has turned its focus to building robo-taxis and humanoid robots, while other automakers are rolling out new EVs. Much of Tesla's trillion-dollar valuation hangs on that bet, although the core auto business is still its moneymaker for now. Cox has more complete data for July, when Tesla's market share fell to 42% from just under 49% in June. The drop was the sharpest since March 4 years ago. Some analysts argue Musk's right-wing political work and association with President Donald Trump has hurt the brand.
That wraps up today's nightly business report. We value your opinion. Share your thoughts and feedback with us through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. We will see you again tomorrow with the latest updates in the business globe. Vinod Varnasuriya will meet you next with other Derana Sports Central. Until then, I'm Jenna Newman. Thank you for watching and have a great night.